5 years vanished in an instant. He ended the call without saying goodbye and followed at a distance, heart pounding so loudly he was sure others could hear it. Taehyung moved slowly, cautiously, one hand brushing lightly against the wall as he walked. That's when Jungkook noticed it. The way Taehyung didn't look directly at anything. The way his eyes seemed unfocused, searching but never landing. The way he paused before each step, as if the world ahead of him were uncertain. Confusion crashed into fear. Taehyung stopped suddenly. Jungkook froze. A passerby bumped into Taehyung's shoulder, muttered an apology, and moved on. Taehyung staggered slightly, disoriented, fingers tightening around the strap of his bag. Before Jungkook could think, he reached out. Taehyung, Jungkook said. The name fell from his mouth before he could stop it. Taehyung froze. He stopped moving. His shoulders stiffened, breath catching like his body had recognized the voice before his mind allowed it. Don't, Taehyung said quietly. Jungkook stepped closer. It's me. Silence stretched between them, heavy, trembling. Taehyung turned his face toward the sound, eyes unfocused, searching for something they could no longer provide. You shouldn't be here, Taehyung whispered. Jungkook swallowed. I saw you and I didn't know. I didn't know you were blind. Taehyung finished calmly. The word cut deeper than any scream. I didn't want you to know, Taehyung said. So please, just go. Jungkook couldn't move. 5 years of imagined reunions had never included this. Never included Taehyung standing alone in a crowded mall pretending he didn't need help. Where's Yoongi? Jungkook asked. Taehyung's jaw tightened. At work. So you're alone? I can take care of myself. That was a lie. A practiced one. Jungkook stepped back, heart pounding. I'll walk you home. No. It came too fast. Too sharp. Confusion twisted painfully in his chest. I should go, Taehyung said, shifting his weight. It was nice meeting you. Meeting. Jungkook watched him turn and walk away, step by careful step, until the crowd swallowed him whole. For the first time in 5 years, Jungkook didn't feel cold. He felt terrified. Jungkook didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Taehyung standing in the mall lost, cautious, smiling politely at someone who had once been his entire world. Blind. The word sat heavy in his chest. Since when? How? Why didn't anyone tell me? And most of all, where is Yoongi? By morning, Jungkook knew exactly where to look. Yoongi lived in a modest apartment not far from the city center. Jungkook recognized the building immediately. He had been here once before, 5 years ago, burning with rage, convinced this man had stolen something that was never his to take. He knocked. Once, twice. The door opened slowly. Yoongi stood there, older now, darker circles beneath his eyes, shoulders slumped like someone permanently braced for impact. Their eyes met. So, Yoongi said quietly, you're back. Jungkook swallowed. You knew I'd come. Yoongi stepped aside without argument. Come in. The apartment was neat but lifeless. No photos, no warmth, nothing that suggested love or shared memories. Jungkook didn't waste time. Why was Taehyung alone? Why he isn't here with you? He demanded. Why couldn't he see me? Yoongi closed the door carefully, as if loud sounds might disturb something fragile. He leaned against it for a moment before speaking. He's been blind for 5 years. Jungkook's breath hitched. 5? His voice cracked. That's impossible. That's when the accident happened, Yoongi replied. The room felt suddenly too small. You said you were engaged, Jungkook said hoarsely. You said you were marrying him. Yoongi's lips pressed into a thin line. No, he said that. Jungkook stared. What? Yoongi walked to the window, staring out as if the truth were easier to face when not seen directly. There was no engagement, Yoongi said. There was no wedding. There was never anyone else. There was no wedding. Jungkook felt dizzy. Then why? The night it happened, Taehyung was alone. Rain blurred the street lights, turning the city into a smear of white and gold. He crossed the road too slowly, distracted by thoughts he couldn't silence. Jungkook's face, Jungkook's laughter, Jungkook's promise. The impact was sudden. Metal, pain, darkness. When Taehyung woke up, the world was wrong. There was sound, there was smell, there was touch, but there was no light. Doctors spoke in careful voices. Terms like optic nerve damage and uncertain recovery floated above him, meaningless and terrifying. He asked one question: Can I see again? No one answered right away. Taehyung didn't tell Jungkook the truth. Not at first. He said he was fine, just tired, just sick. But Jungkook noticed. You're hiding something, Jungkook said one night. Taehyung smiled. I'm really not. Taehyung. I said I'm okay. After that, Jungkook started calling less. And Taehyung, standing on the edge of something he couldn't fix. Yoongi was with him all this time. He learned Taehyung's routines better than anyone else. Learned when Taehyung needed help and when he needed dignity more. Jungkook's father visited him a month later. He was polite, calm, calculated. You know Jungkook's future is important, the man said, folding his hands neatly. He's worked hard for it. Taehyung nodded. And you know your condition, he continued gently. You don't know if you'll recover. Do you really want him to come back and carry this responsibility? The word burden wasn't said, but it hung in the air. Taehyung didn't cry until the door closed behind him. Yoongi sat beside Taehyung in silence and listened as Taehyung broke apart piece by piece. I can't ruin his life, Taehyung whispered. He deserves someone whole. Yoongi's jaw tightened. You are not a burden. But he'll see me that way, Taehyung said. Eventually, Yoongi closed his eyes and agreed to help him lie. Taehyung sat in the dark for a long time after that, hands shaking, whispering apologies Jungkook would never hear. Outside, the rain kept falling, and somewhere across the world, Jungkook's waiting turned into something far colder. Yoongi turned around then, eyes sharp and tired and painfully honest. He lost his eyesight a few months before your return, Yoongi continued. Doctors weren't hopeful. Recovery was uncertain. He couldn't walk the same way, couldn't live the same way. Jungkook's knees weakened. He sat down heavily. He didn't tell me, Jungkook whispered. He wanted to, Yoongi said. But before he could, your father came. He told Taehyung that you were building a future, Yoongi said. That you didn't need complications. That loving someone who might never see again would only slow you down. The word hung between them. Burden. Jungkook's chest constricted painfully. He believed it, Yoongi added softly, because he already felt like one. Jungkook's hands trembled. So you agreed to lie? Yes. Why? Yoongi's gaze flickered just for a second. Because he asked me to, Yoongi said, and because he was already breaking. Silence swallowed the room. And the things I said, Jungkook whispered, at the cafe, about him. Yoongi's jaw tightened. He heard them. Jungkook covered his face, breath shuddering. I loved him, he said brokenly. I never stopped. I know, Yoongi replied. Jungkook's vision blurred. And you? Jungkook whispered. Why stay? Yoongi looked away. Because someone had to, he said. Yoongi met his eyes steadily. Even then, he loved you more than himself. Jungkook left the apartment in a daze. Every step toward Taehyung's building felt heavier than the last, as if regret had weight and it was pressing down on his spine. 5 years. 5 years of loneliness, fear, and quiet suffering. Jungkook stopped in front of the door. His hand hovered, shaking. For the first time in years, he was afraid not of rejection, not of anger, but of being too late. He knocked. Footsteps approached cautiously. Who is it? Taehyung asked through the door. It's me, Jungkook said. Please, just listen. The door opened slowly. Taehyung stood there, face guarded, eyes shadowed by memories. Taehyung hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in. The apartment was small but warm. Everything had a place, furniture positioned for memory rather than sight. Jungkook took it all in, throat tight, guilt pressing harder with every step. Taehyung moved carefully toward the couch and sat down. Jungkook remained standing, afraid that if he sat, he might not be able to stand again. I didn't expect you, Taehyung said gently. Yoongi didn't say. I spoke to him, Jungkook interrupted. Taehyung's fingers curled slightly in his lap. Oh. Silence stretched. Jungkook took a step forward. Why didn't you tell me? Taehyung exhaled slowly. I didn't want you to pity me. I'm sorry. The words came apart in his mouth. I'm sorry for what I said, for leaving angry, for believing you could stop loving me so easily, for every year I spent hating you when you were hurting alone. Taehyung's hands trembled. You don't owe me anything, Taehyung whispered. I owe you everything, Jungkook said. You were never a burden. You're the reason my life had meaning at all. Silence. Then Taehyung cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, the kind of crying that came from finally being too tired to pretend. Taehyung's hands trembled as they reached forward, stopping just short of Jungkook's face. May I? Taehyung asked quietly. Jungkook nodded, unable to speak. Taehyung's fingers brushed Jungkook's cheeks, tentative at first, then more certain, mapping familiar contours, memorizing what his eyes no longer could. You've changed, Taehyung murmured. Taehyung's hands trembled as they reached forward, stopping just short of Jungkook's face. May I? Taehyung asked quietly. Jungkook nodded, unable to speak. Taehyung's fingers brushed Jungkook's cheeks, tentative at first, then more certain, mapping familiar contours, memorizing what his eyes no longer could. You've changed, Taehyung murmured. Jungkook stood and carefully pulled Taehyung into his arms. Taehyung melted into the embrace instantly, as if he had been waiting 5 years to do exactly this. Outside, the city moved on. Inside that small apartment, two broken halves finally found each other again. Yoongi watched from a distance. He noticed the change immediately, the warmth returning to Taehyung's voice, the ease in his movements, the way his laughter came back in pieces, like something remembered rather than lost. Yoongi never said anything. He helped with groceries, fixed things around the apartment, stayed late when Jungkook worked. He smiled when Taehyung talked about Jungkook, listened without bitterness, without resentment. One afternoon, while Taehyung napped on the couch, Jungkook found Yoongi standing by the window, suitcase at his feet. You're leaving, Jungkook said. Yoongi nodded. I got an offer abroad. Long term. Jungkook frowned. Why now? Yoongi looked toward the couch, where Taehyung slept peacefully. Because he doesn't need me the way he used to, Yoongi said quietly, and because he needs you more than he'll ever need me. Jungkook hesitated. He'll miss you. I know, Yoongi replied. Jungkook swallowed. Thank you. Yoongi smiled faintly. Just don't waste him. When Taehyung woke up, Yoongi was gone. There was a note on the table, written neatly, carefully. Live well, both of you. Taehyung held the paper for a long time, fingers trembling. He didn't say goodbye, Taehyung whispered. He knew you'd feel it, Jungkook replied softly. Taehyung leaned into Jungkook's chest. I hope he finds happiness. So do I, Jungkook said. The call came on an ordinary morning. That was the cruelest part of it. Jungkook was in the kitchen, half asleep, making tea, while Taehyung sat at the table, fingers resting lightly on the wood, listening to the familiar sounds that told him exactly where Jungkook was. The phone rang. Jeon Jungkook? A calm voice asked. Yes, this is the hospital. Jungkook turned away, heart beginning to pound. Yes, I'm listening. There was a pause on the other end. Then, we have a corneal donor match for Kim Tae-young. Jungkook's breath left him in a rush. What? He whispered. The surgery can be scheduled within the week, the voice continued. The donor requested anonymity. Jungkook's hand trembled as he ended the call. Taehyung had gone very still. What happened? Taehyung asked carefully. Jungkook crossed the room in two steps and knelt in front of him, taking Taehyung's hands in his own. They found a donor, Jungkook said, voice breaking. You might be able to see again. For a moment, Taehyung didn't react. Then his breath hitched. I. I don't want to hope, he whispered. I've done that before. Jungkook pressed his forehead against Taehyung's hands. Then let me hope for you. The surgery took hours. Jungkook sat in the waiting room, hands clasped tightly, eyes fixed on nothing. When the doctor finally emerged, Jungkook stood so fast his chair fell backward. It went well, the doctor said. Now we wait. Waiting. It had shaped so much of their lives. But this time it felt different. The bandages came off a week later. The doctor warned them slowly, gradually. Don't expect clarity immediately. Jungkook held Taehyung's hand as the final layer was removed. Taehyung blinked. Once. Twice. Light flooded in, not sharp, not overwhelming, but real. His breath caught. I. His voice shook. I can see. The I. I. Jungkook's world shattered and reformed all at once. Jungkook, Taehyung whispered, voice breaking. Jungkook smiled through tears. Yes. Taehyung laughed a full, breathless sound and cried at the same time. I thought I'm starting to forget your face, Taehyung said. But I didn't. I never could do it. Jungkook pulled him into his arms, holding him like the world had almost taken him away twice. Weeks later, they learned. The donor's identity came in an envelope careful, detached. Jungkook opened it absent-mindedly. Then his hands started shaking. Taehyung, Jungkook said softly. It's Yoongi. The room went silent. What? Taehyung whispered. Jungkook read the words again, hoping they'd change. They didn't. Jungkook closed his eyes, breath breaking. All the pieces fell into place. The distance, the timing, the quiet goodbye, written in Yoongi's familiar, careful handwriting. Taehyung, by the time you read this, you'll be able to see the world again. I'm glad. Don't look for me in memories that hurt. Look for me in mornings filled with light, in colors you thought you'd lost, in the face of the person you love. Some people love loudly, some love forever. I loved quietly, and that was enough. Live well. That will be my happiness. Taeyang pressed the letter to his chest and cried until Jungkook held him steady.